Good morning, everybody. Welcome to what I think is probably one of the best webinar series we do and have ever done here at Western Marketing. My name is Jim Codney. I'm National Sales Director here and also manage our Life and Annuity team. And I'm really excited and want to introduce our guest presenter here in just a moment. But before we do that, I just want to briefly go through a couple housekeeping rules. First of all, we know, Sean and I know, you are not out on appointments, putting food on your tables and paying bills while you're here. So we're going to get through this in as quick as we can, but still to give you the information and background that we believe is imperative to the topic at hand. Second of all, we're here for you. So if you have questions, please, please, please put them in the question box. No question is going to be, too silly or anything for us. If it's on an individual case, just know we will probably follow up with you after the webinar is over. But if it's something that we think could help everybody, we'll actually address those here on the call. Lastly, we just want to again thank you for your trust, your faith in us and Western Marketing and everybody at Integrity, and also it's my pleasure to introduce somebody who's not only a business partner with me and us here at Western Marketing, but also a mentor and has become a good friend, Sean Ruggiero. Sean, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Jim. I appreciate it. Yeah, we've done this for a number of years now. I appreciate being on the call. We always have great agents and great questions and great participation. So most importantly, thank you to everyone who's attending. I know how valuable your time is. And I've said this many times before, Jim, this can be a lonely business, right? We are technically independent contractors, right? What gets you up in the morning? What's your schedule? What are the things that you have to make? What are the things that you want to make? So carving out time for this, we really appreciate it. And as someone who has been in your shoes, and what I mean by that, Jim, I've said this before, I was in the trenches. I've been in this business for 23 years, and until recently, where they, at a certain level, they say you can't go, for liability reasons or whatever, you can't be running business anymore. I mean, 20 years of that has been doing what you're doing. Maybe not Medicare specific. I'm a little bit naive with Medicare, a little bit, but I understand the battle you go through. I have absolute empathy and experience. So when I teach, when I talk to you as teammates. I talk to you as people who are brothers in arms, brothers, sisters in arms, and I know what you're going through. So I appreciate your time, and I know that what I'm going to show you today is proven and will work to help you increase your income next year. So thank you for being here. Jim, are you good with me going now?
Yeah, I think we're ready to rock and roll. Go ahead and take it.
All right, that's the introduction. Okay, so how to grow your business this year, Jim? We were laughing. We had some time to spend together in I think it was Madrid, right? We had this wonderful opportunity to spend some time together with our better halves, and we were joking about the change for me, the shift for me being compliance. You were a little bit more versed. You've had some corporate background longer than I have. And when I first gave this presentation, I titled it "How to Double Your Income Next Year." There's two reasons for that. One, if you blast out a webinar that says how to double your income next year, people are going to pay attention, right? We got to claw and scrape for your time and to get top of mind. The second reason is that it's true. I know it. I've proven it. I've seen it. Now, compliance says, we don't want to say double your income next year. How about something else? And I said, okay, how about this? Triple your income guaranteed. And they said, how about you stop making jokes, right? So we have these mundane titles. This is corporate compliance, right? How to grow your business this year. Okay, well, that's fine. But what I'm going to tell you is shooting straight. This is absolutely a system a system that has been set up by Western Marketing in partnership with, kind of the back end partnership with Brokers International, and something that reflects 2 decades of work that I've done to help people who, let's face it, many people on this call are not going to be securities licensed agents. They're not going to own their own RIA. They're not going to have a massive alphabet soup and be able to understand derivative investments and hedging tools and things like that. Things that can be very intimidating. They could be a lot of life and health agents who feel that, as I did, and I'll explain that here in a moment, that when you're selling life insurance or when you're selling Medicare supplements or Medicare Advantage plans, you are doing what you're supposed to be doing and what the client expects you to be doing. But when you shift to, say, an annuity or even maybe a life insurance policy, you're going outside your lane, and you're uncomfortable with that. They're uncomfortable with that. Well, this system teaches you how to do it, and then what Western has put in place helps you execute it. And this is how we're going to double that income next year, or heck, triple that income. And I'll guarantee it with a cup of coffee. If you do everything that you say that we point out for you and you don't triple your income next year, a cup of coffee on me. But all jokes aside, let's go ahead and move forward. I don't like talking about myself very much. My wife has told me that I need to grow up. And there are some important things. I'm not going to go through all this stuff. Yes, I am a managing partner of Integrity Marketing Group. I built a company called Family First Life from the ground up in 2014, sold it in 2019. We were an early acquisition, one of the very first acquisitions of Integrity Marketing Group. Was voted one of the 20 most creative people in life insurance or in insurance by Life Health Pro. And that had to do a lot with some of the technology aspects that I brought, because that was my previous background, was living in the Bay Area, living in Seattle, and bringing technology or insurtech solutions to the industry. But here's the one I want to point out. Okay. Actually, I am the author of 7 Benefits of FIAs for Retirement. If any of you have attended this webinar or something that I've spoken about, you know that. And Jim, we're going to use this as a little bit of a thank you at the end of the webinar. I'll talk about that. I currently serve as the Chief Sales Officer or Chief Distribution Officer for Brokers International. But most importantly, I want to point this out. I had an RIA. Okay, so a registered investment advisory firm. So I was registered with the SEC and at the state level. And that means I have a securities license and multiple certifications. And what that allows me to do is to sell securities. Now, securities and annuities oftentimes clash, right? People become polarized. It's like Republicans and Democrats, Jim, right? Boy, can we ever just agree? You have to be one or the other wholesale. It appears sometimes, unfortunately. Don't take that as a political statement or this as a political presentation. I'm using that as an analogy. What the reality is that everything has its right place. But I want to put myself in your shoes. I want to explain this to you. When I first started selling 23 years ago, excuse me. When I first started selling 23 years ago, I was good at selling life insurance. I would respond to leads that people say on an internet lead or a writing lead were requesting life insurance. So I felt very comfortable going in, showing them my license and saying, hey, I'm going to ask you some questions about life insurance. And guess what? I'm asking them personal questions. Jim, if I was responding to a request that you had sent, I'd called you on the phone. This is way back in the day when we did paper apps and sat knee to knee at your kitchen table, Jim. And I started asking you personal questions. Jim, how old are you? How much do you weigh? How much income do you make? What medications are you taking? What's your driver's license number? What's your social security number? I would argue, and Jim, you'd probably agree, those are some of the most personal, private questions you could ask. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Like, you don't let just some stranger come in and start answering those questions. But because you viewed me as the professional who was handling that life insurance policy, you knew that you would want to give those questions and willingly give those questions up, answers up, excuse me, because that was the critical path to get what you wanted. And I was the catalyst to do that. So then, knowing that I had some of this annuity training, and a lot of it was bad, I would then shift gears. And I would say, hey, Jim, do you have a 401k or an IRA? And you're thinking, whoa, 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 wait, why are you asking that? Right? Boom, all of a sudden it shifts. You're not real comfortable with that. I would ask you how it's performing. Like I've seen a myriad of really bad segue questions to try to sell an annuity, and I knew what I was trying to do. I knew I was trying to sell this fixed index annuity, or maybe a MIGA or whatever it might be. But there's three problems with how I approached that. Problem number one, I wasn't comfortable asking it. I felt that if I showed them this fixed indexed annuity, Jim, that they would take it back to their girl or their guy who had this alphabet soup behind their name, who took a test that was harder than my test. I'll just call it what it is, right? Who had more scrutiny as a fiduciary or as a broker, dealer agent, and they would laugh at my idea. Now, this is where I say that my insecurities led to my securities license. No one likes to be laughed at, but I'm like the most insecure person when it comes to being laughed at. And so I thought if I brought this up to them, they would take it to their financial advisor, and the financial advisor would just poke holes through it, and I would lose credibility, right, Jim? I would lose credibility. Like, oh, this is a salesperson. This isn't someone here to help me find a life insurance policy. This is a salesperson. So I wasn't comfortable asking it. They weren't comfortable answering it because I shifted gears. And remember, this is the same person that just gave me their social, their driver's license. They told me that they take Viagra. They told me their income, all in front of their spouse. And yet when I ask them about their 401k, they clam up. Okay. And then the third thing that is a potential issue with that scenario is I might be asking questions that I'm not licensed to ask, right? We have to be very careful with that. So what I did is I developed over the years a one question sales system that I'm going to share with you. And this is that key that's going to unlock that doubling of your income next year. I created this question that is a beautiful solution that when you add it with the platform that Western Marketing has exclusively put together for you, it takes all of the angst out of it. And I'm going to show you how that works. So before we get into it, and this isn't very long, we want to leave time for questions and answers, but please pay attention. This helpful stuff, and I'll also show you some things that I want you to jot down and kind of put to memory. But we have to give that important notice, and it really is. So Brokers International, we all represent here, myself and Jim, Integrity Marketing Group, who we all represent, Western Marketing Group, and its affiliates do not provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. This material has been prepared for informational purposes only. It is not intended and to provide and should not be relied on for tax, legal, or accounting advice. So you should consult, and your clients should consult with their tax, legal, and accounting advisors before engaging in any transaction. So what I'm saying is this is professional use only. This is training. This is for your eyes only. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Please let Jim know. But you're going to love what you're learning here and what you're writing down and how simple it is and how easy it is to get good at it through just a little bit of discipline and through three things I'm going to point out at the end that you need to do, and you're on your path to doubling that income. So can you really grow your business, right? Was this just a headline? Can you really double your income or triple your income guaranteed? Did we just try to get you on this webinar and then we're going to, bait and switch? No. The answer is that we, yes, absolutely can, and it's been proven. I'm going to show you how. And here's the cool thing about it, Jim. You've seen me do this presentation many times, and you know what I'm speaking is the truth. It's the same license you already have. And that's with the assumption that most people who carry a health license, Jim, also have a life license. Those kind of go hand in hand. No new leads. This isn't one of those Tupperware parties where your friend invites you and gives you coffee and cookies and then says, okay, how much Tupperware do you want to buy? And you now are, get in on the ground floor. We're not going to sell you anything. And the same clients you already service, the ones you sat with yesterday, today, the ones you sit with next year, this year at annual enrollment, those are the ones that financial advisors would salivate to service because you're meeting with people in that wheelhouse. Most people you meet with who are 20 or 30 years old, they don't have a ton of assets set up. They're not great for selling maybe some permanent life insurance policies or annuity policies because they have more human capital than financial capital. I'll explain that in the next slide. It's the ones you're sitting with that are the prime clients that you can help and make good commissions, right? There's nothing wrong with saying that. You should be paid for what you do, right? Jim, if you went out there and you were a beach volleyball guy, right? You're playing
Yep.
against Coach Karai and St. John Smith, right? Is it fair that Karch and St. John, who are winning all these international tournaments, are getting paid more than you? Would you agree?
Yeah, a lot more.
A lot more. Exactly. A lot more, right? Well, think about that. You're out there doing a great service, you should get paid. Like a free agent in football, like the top of the AVP in volleyball, you should get paid. And keep this in mind, my entire career, and I've never said this on the presentation, but I want you to understand, my entire career, what I learned is that the more I know, if I'm the smartest person in the room, which I'm not as far as IQ goes, but I am so hyper disciplined and motivated to learn that it created value. So you know a lot, you start really adopting this. And listen, Jim, there could be 25 people, 50 people, 500 people on this webinar. Only a small portion will actually listen to what I'm saying and do it. But those people, that's enough. I'm encouraging you to understand what I'm saying, practice it, execute it, and you're going to find that you start to get really, really excited about knowing more than your clients. And when you know more than your clients, guess who's leading? You are, right? And that's what it takes to be a successful salesperson. So can this really do it? Can it double your income? Yes. And Western Marketing is going to show you how. I told you I was going to explain that. Quick reference to human capital and financial capital. Well, here it is. If we look at over a lifespan, right? So at the bottom of this graph, let's say it's age 20, and at the end of the graph on the bottom, right? So that x-axis is age 100. Well, when we're 20 years old, Jim, and I don't think you came from a trust fund or anything, or built something out of your garage that you sold to Amazon. When we're 20 years old, we don't have a lot of financial capital, right? We haven't built up a big savings or a 401k or paid into Social Security or bought a house or anything like that. In fact, I was probably below broke, whatever that was. But we have a lot of human capital. And human capital is our ability to do, learn, and earn. So in an idyllic or somewhat common or mean situation, you're going to find someone that when they're younger, 20s, 30s, even into their 40s, they don't have a ton of financial capital, but they have a lot of human capital, that ability to do, learn, and earn. And you'll see that I repeat stuff that you need to know. I am very gratuitous with that because I want you to know those things. And those word tracks are what's powerful for understanding what you're doing, keeping you on track, and explaining to the client what you do and why it's of value. So you've got this human capital, your ability to do, learn, and earn. There, I said it one more time. And if you have that human capital, your goal is to exchange it over a lifetime for financial capital, for payment into the Social Security system, for a defined contribution plan like a 401k or a 403b or 457 or whatever it might be, for savings, for a vacation home, right? You start to gain financial capital. But what happens if you were to die, Jim, at 20, 25, 30, right? Then your loved ones, your beneficiaries, they have no more human capital. And all that human capital, and by the way, the most valuable asset you will ever have is your human capital. It is finite. There's only 24 hours in a day. You've always heard that, but it is a real thing. So how you use human capital is very important. And so not being able to spend all of it and exchange it for financial capital can leave your loved ones essentially in debt, in purgatory. They now can't climb out of it. So how do we solve that, Jim? We solve it with life insurance. So if something tragically happened to me at 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 years old, where I have not been able to use all my human capital, where I have not been able to build up the financial capital that my trajectory was going to have me build, then there is a tax-free death benefit paid to my loved ones. That's what we do. We pay, we write life insurance to pay the tax-free benefit to cover human capital. But flip that over, then there's financial capital. And see, Jim, when people get to be 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, right? In most situations, their human capital is waned, right? Not too many people at age 72 could boast, I have a ton of human capital. Like I'm going to go back into the job force, or I'm going to go get go back to college and become a doctor and do my residency. I mean, heck, you'd be probably 86 by the time you're actually making money and still have loans to pay off. You get my point. Like your human capital is waned. It's that financial capital. But if you take someone, and I use my father-in-law, who I'm very proud of, as an example, he had that nose to the grindstone, and for 4 decades, he worked for Boeing. I'm from Seattle, and he worked for Boeing. And he exchanged all that valuable, finite human capital for financial capital. And he got rewarded with a defined benefit plan. That's called a pension. He got rewarded by putting into a defined contribution plan. That's called a 401k. He got rewarded by paying into the Social Security system. He got rewarded with paying off his mortgage. Does that make sense? While having some savings. So by the time his human capital waned so much that it really wasn't worth that much, and his financial capital had increased, that intersections where people retire, right? And now you have to protect financial capital. Okay, so financial capital is different than protecting human capital. We use different tools. We use Medicare Advantage and Medicare supplement plans, Jim. And follow with me here, track with me here. How does a Medicare plan protect financial capital? Easy, because if you have a health event, a life event, which could, when unprotected, destroy your financial capital because you have massive hospital bills and treatment bills and things of that nature, a Medicare supplement or a Medicare Advantage plan can help keep that in a budgetable range, right? So you're protecting it. But how else can we protect financial capital? We can protect it with annuities, right? Because annuities protect against downside loss. They allow you to participate in upside gain, and they can create guaranteed paychecks for life. So I ask you, think about it. If I ask you, what does a 6th grade English teacher do? You're going to know what they do. They teach English to 6th graders, or they teach English at a 6th grade level. Jim, that's about the level that you and I converse, right? If I said, what does a diesel mechanic do? And by the way, I have no idea how diesel engines work. I think it's gremlins or wizardry that are under the hood. I was once told that they don't use spark plugs. So occasionally, if I'm feeling very brave or insecure, I throw that out as a factoid, like I know what I'm talking about. The reality is I have no idea. But if you ask me, what does a diesel mechanic do? I could tell you. They work on diesel engines, they build diesel engines, they repair diesel engines, they modify diesel engines. That's what a diesel mechanic does. But what does a life insurance agent do? What does an insurance agent do? See, the problem is this, everyone. We tend to get siloed, right? You here on the call might be focusing solely on Medicare, right? Solely on Medicare. And that's great. You're protecting financial capital, but you're not even approaching the human capital that you can protect. And the inverse, the juxtaposition of that is also true. Too many people focus just on life insurance, and then that client, once they sell a life insurance policy, they just move on to the next client. Well, the hardest thing in this industry is getting another client. So why not expand your playbook? Why not use everything that your license allows you to do and understand this is how we offer complete protection, holistic protection. So start thinking of yourself as, I offer holistic protection for clients, including human capital and financial capital protection. That's pretty cool, right? And think about it. I always taught agents and agencies for years that if you say smart stuff, people will think you're smart. So when you start telling people that that's what you do, you're not just I'm a Medicare specialist, right? You will open up a whole world of opportunities. And then Western Marketing has the system to help you exploit that. I'm going to give you one more analogy, and then we're going to pick up speed on this presentation. I'm a big football fan, love football. You all have the Cardinals and Phoenix. I don't know how localized your agents are. Hopefully they have better football teams to root for, because
they do, I'm sure.
Yeah, because the Cardinals, I mean, God love them, but once Larry Fitzgerald and Kurt Warner left, I'm not sure what the bell cow is for them. But hey, they're NFL players, they're great. But my point is this, Jim, if I said, hey, the Cardinals are now going to get the best running quarterback in the NFL, And maybe it is Kyler Murray or Jalen Hurts or I mean, it's Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen is probably the real answer. But you're going to get the best running quarterback on the planet. You're going to get the two best all pro. See, Pro Bowl doesn't matter. Fans have no idea what they're voting for. It's the all pro. You get the two best all pro running backs. And I bet like a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs from the Lions, like that guy's phenomenal. There's so many good ones, but you get the best running backs. You get the best offensive line. Your entire offensive line is all pro, all pro, all pro, all pro, all pro. Like, how could you stop this team? I'm even going to give you the best blocking receivers and tight ends in the entire NFL. That's now the Arizona Cardinals. One caveat. The caveat is this: you can't throw the ball. You have to be able to run it every time. Jim, you know how many games you're going to win in the NFL? 0.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? So I say this because I don't want you to silo yourself. I want you to expand and say, you know what? I might be a Medicare specialist. There's nothing wrong with focus on or being a specialist something, but I'm not going to pigeonhole myself. I'm going to throw in a few play action passes, right? You even see Navy and Air Force and all these run triple option teams in college football. They start to throw the ball more and it's effective. So you need to add the other part to your repertoire, and I'm going to show you how. Now, confidence and compliance. Confidence and compliance. I'm going to talk to you about this. You have to be confident in what you're doing, or you will not succeed. I've broken it down to the most rudimentary and powerful things that you need to know about fixed index annuities, right, which protect financial capital, and I guess from your camera view, this side, and about permanent life insurance, which protects human capital. Okay, and I'm going to give them to you right here. This is one of the few times that I suggest you write them down. I want you to write them down. I want you to memorize them. So if you were in an elevator pitch or an elevator with Ken Fisher, right? Ken Fisher from Fisher Investments, great company actually. I like what they do, but he has this marketing deal where he says annuities are the devil's work, and that's not what he says, but annuities are bad. You could say this to him, and it would hold water. It's indisputable. Okay. And that came from me, who I had to go out and get all this licensing, every certification, pass all these tests on my own RIA group, right? Till I came full circle to the knowledge that when it comes to these three things, no financial product does it better. None. Not a CEF, not a closed-end fund, not an ETF, not a preferred bond or preferred stock, not a bond, not a buffered note. I mean, I'm not trying to impress you with how many types of investments or derivatives I know. I'm saying there is not another thing out there that does it as well as an FIA. And here's what it is, okay? First and foremost, a fixed index annuity eliminates market loss. Any money, Jim, that we put into, that a client puts into a fixed index annuity will never lose money in the market again. That's very powerful, right? Your clients are going to sleep well at night. Secondly, it participates in market gains. Now, I want to draw a correlation there. Benefit number one is not exclusive to fixed index annuities. I bet many of you could rattle off other items. I mean, put it in the chat if you want. Like, what else can eliminate market loss? CDs, treasury bonds, money market accounts. Are you all tracking? Like number one's not exclusive to FIAs, but it is a benefit of FIAs. And there are only a few products that actually protect against market loss. But when you couple that with number two, now you're getting somewhere. See, because number two is this: fixed index annuities participate in market. Sorry, I'm getting these notifications and I'm trying to get them to go away. Hopefully you can't see them here. But number two, they participate in market gains. So when it comes to products that have the first benefit, products that can eliminate market loss, like let's say a CD or a US Treasury bond or Treasury note, they're going to give you a fixed rate of return. And that fixed rate of return, there's something called risk premium. So the more you risk, the higher premium you anticipate. Well, when you're not risking anything that's guaranteed, your premium is low. You get very little. Well, this is a guaranteed product. This is a risk-free product. But because a fixed index annuity participates in the market gains, and notice this, I didn't say it gets all the market gains. I didn't say it beats the market. It's why I am such an advocate of not using these vol control indexes that illustrate at 14%, right? Jim, you've seen it, right? We've seen
Yeah.
FIA illustrations that show returns higher than what the market got. That's silly. Don't do that. It doesn't need to be explained that way, because the idea that you can get some of the market gains and none of the market losses is powerful enough. And I'll tell you this, if you got 50% participation in the S&P 500, let's use that as an example, and the S&P 500 went up 22%, and every 4 years or so, that's what it does historically, and it will in the future. And if you only got half, you got 11%. But 11%, when's the last time in the last decade or 2 decades that you got 11% on a money market account? Didn't happen, right? So my point is that you have the ability to participate in market gains. So when the index goes up, you participate, and when the index goes down, your gains are locked in, you lose nothing, and you have the highest gain potential of any product that can give you the first benefit. That's what's powerful. And then finally, the cream on top, the cherry on top, the one that just takes the cake, it is still an annuity. And only annuities can offer guaranteed lifetime income. So you add these 3 things together, no other financial product can do them. And would you ask yourself, like rhetorically, don't be weird and go in the mirror and ask yourself. I always thought that was silly, where you go to like a motivational speaker, like, I want you to stand in the mirror and ask yourself. I'm like, well, I'm not doing that. But ask yourself, I'm speaking figuratively. Ask yourself, if you were in retirement, or the clients that you sit down with, if these 3 benefits combined are of value to them. And the answer is yes, it is. Now, we also have to have confidence with life insurance, specifically permanent life insurance. And I want you to keep in mind, I don't talk about something you might see on TikTok, where they say, hey, put your money into these IULs and you're going to retire tax-free, and there's a tax time bomb and the government's going to implode. Hey, yes, taxes should be a concern. Yes, our taxes will grow the older we get. 100% believe that. You want to see proof? In my mind, take the great country of America, the greatest country that we have on earth. That is my strong opinion. And compare it at its 200 and something years old to the countries that we go to, like like Spain, Jim, like Italy, where I've been to many times, like Germany, like the UK. Do you know where their tax rates start at? Like 45%, 50%. Like, they blow us out of the water. We think we complain about taxes. These taxes are ridiculous. And why? They're thousands of years old. These countries are thousands of years old. So you can't maintain permanent debt and extend the debt ceiling forever. Yes, you could always print money, but now you run into hyperinflation, right? Look at Germany post World War I. Look at Argentina today. There's many examples out there. I'm sorry to go on this tangent, but what you know is that if we look at IULs for clients who are 65, 60 or whatever, just like the clients that might be 20, taxes will probably be higher later in life. So getting tax-free money is still very valuable. It's why I'm a huge advocate of the Roth IRA. But what we can't do is defy math and physics. You can't take a 65-year-old, show them a TikTok video on retiring tax-free and all this conspiracy theory stuff about the national debt, and then say, buy this IUL, and now you're going to retire tax-free, because their cost of insurance is too high at 65, and their runway is too short. And usually they're working off a fixed budget, so it's not like they can be dumping in $26,000 a month of premium, right? That's just not how it works. So I want to relate this to you as it pertains to people who are working more off that financial capital, that second half of life, because that's more of who you're going to meet, okay? And so let's talk about the 3 benefits of permanent life insurance, or IULs. IULs are just a subset of whole life. They're just there's only 2 types of insurance out there: life insurance, term and whole. Term and whole. Everything below it is just a deviation or an offspring of it, right? So what are those guarantees? Guarantee number one, or what are those benefits? I'm sorry. First of all, guarantees. There's guarantees in retirement. Jim, if you purchased Google, right, Alphabet, it's a great stock. You know, I owned it long time ago, and it's grown and all that stuff. But there is no guarantee. If something happened and Google went from X dollars down all the way to, you know, if it lost 90% value, Jim, do you think you can call Alphabet down in California and say, hey, I want to get my original premium back? Not a chance. There's no guarantee on that. See, life insurance does offer guarantees. And I want you to understand this. Write this down. Life insurance is not an investment. Life insurance is not an investment. It is a financial asset, and a conservative one at that. Once you start understanding that, don't pit life insurance against 401ks. Don't pit life insurance against other investments. They're two totally different things, and they have their own place. You know, Jim, we have people who they and compliance has asked me not to say this, but I'm going to say it. We have people who ask clients to take their 401k and cash it out, or their IRA and cash it out, take the big tax hit, and then put it in IUL. Well, you do realize that an IUL has cost of insurance, an IUL has policy fees, right? That creates a ton of drag. So you've just done a terrible thing for the client. You are going to go to hell. I don't want you to go to hell. If you want to do a conversion on a tax traditional IRA or 401k or 403b or 457 or whatever it might be, or SEP or simple, and you want to make it tax-free, you're going to convert it to a Roth. And then you're probably going to use a bonus annuity to recoup some of those. Jim, that could be a training we do some other time, right? But IULs are fantastic because they offer guarantees. And those guarantees are things like guaranteed death benefit, guaranteed premiums, guaranteed cash values. That's powerful because their alternatives do not have guarantees. Number two, the second benefit is that tax-free portion. Now, notice I'm not saying retire tax-free, put your money in, cash out your 401k, and now you are tax-free. No. But when you start putting premium into a whole life policy, almost immediately, in fact, Jim, I just opened up another policy, and day one, my premium, I do a single pay for 10 years. Day one, my premium, I put in the cash, 92% of it, or I put in my premium, 92% of it is available as cash, and I can access that tax-free. But more importantly, the death benefit. Jim, you've met my wife, right? She is smarter, better looking, younger, healthier, right? She will outlive me.
100%, yeah.
100%, yes, 110%. And she will get a death benefit that's tax-free. And that is so critical for not messing up Social Security income taxes, for not messing up provisional tax footprints, for not messing up marginal tax footprints or effective tax rates. And right, does that make sense? That tax-free benefit is so huge to take care of your loved ones. And it is exclusive to life insurance. And then finally, Jim, we talked about this this morning. 96% of Americans do not have long-term care, a true long-term care benefit. Yet 70% of people over 65 will need some form of long-term care. That's a real conundrum. That's an epidemic. Even though not all life insurance, I say not all because there are some life insurance policies, and this is how cool it is. And Jim's working on something to show you a turnkey long-term care plan that we will do at a different webinar series, right? But they have life insurance policies that either have long-term care riders on them or have what are called living benefits that allow you to access the death benefit before you die. Jim, that's like saying I want to save up $100,000 to protect my financial capital in case I need long-term care insurance, or I need long-term care or end-of-life care. And the money pops up the next day, and then you just have to start savings. It's reverse. Normally, you'd have to start saving the money, save it for 10 or 20 years, and then it shows up. This is the reverse. You buy a life insurance policy, and the death benefit is now, think of it as a savings account. You can access that death benefit through living benefits if you can't perform 2 of 6 activities of daily living. It's that simple, right? So these 3 things are what you need to write down. Guarantees. It's a conservative financial product that has guarantees. It is the only thing on earth outside of a Roth IRA, which has limits on how much you can put into it and limits on who can fund it. And keep in mind, you have to be working. So sometimes people look at Roth IRAs way too late in life and they're no longer working. You can't fund a Roth IRA. So life insurance is tax-free. Both the cash that you can borrow against, the collateralize and take loans from, tax-free. It's called non-reportable income. They don't even tell the IRS they're giving you the money. And the death benefit is tax-free. That's that Goldilocks spot. That's the exclusive thing to life insurance. And then finally, the benefits that can help you offset healthcare and long-term care costs. When it comes to these three benefits, no other financial product out there can touch what a permanent life insurance policy does. All right, we're going to go through two scenarios, wrap it up, and open up for questions. Let's start with Bridget. Bridget is 65 years old. We discovered that she has a $225,000 IRA. She wants to retire by age 70. She's concerned about living too long and losing money in the stock market. Now, how did we find that out? One of the things we're going to show you on the Life and Annuity Resource Center that Western Marketing has provided for you is something called a confidential needs analysis. Okay, this is a financial inventory that's designed specifically for, say, Medicare agents as their specialty to help them find 7 other sales opportunities. And that's going to be our third and last webinar that we do in the series. I'm going to show you how using this single page form that you have access to, that Jim has gone over, and find 7 sales opportunities off one form. Very cool. But it all stems from something called the golden question. So what is the golden question? Remember I told you I'll teach you a 1-question sales system that unlocks how to double your income? It's this. It's, do you have anything that acts like life insurance? Now I need to give you a little bit of a preamble so that makes sense. Do you remember when I told you that if I sat down with Jim for a Medicare supplement policy or a life insurance policy, I'm going to ask him very personal questions. I'm going to ask him his date of birth, his weight, his height, his income, his medications, his social security number, his driver's license number, right? That's very personal stuff. And he answers it. I'm going to also ask him about his current Medicare policy. Does he have a Medicare supplement or a Medicare Advantage plan? What's the premium, et cetera, right? You're doing your job. And he has willingly answered it. I'm going to ask about extended care. Jim, do you have any long-term care insurance, right? This is all dictated right in this confidential needs analysis. See, we are setting up all these things so we understand how we can help Jim, but also we can understand other opportunities that we can sell to help them and help us. Then we're going to add in the section called the life insurance section. And it's going to go something like this. I'm going to ask them, I'm going to ask Jim or Bridget in this example, and I'm going to say, hey, Bridget, so I have a full understanding of what you have. I need to know also about life insurance because there are benefits in certain life insurance policies that can help offset healthcare costs or replacement of income, et cetera, et cetera. So please let me ask you, do you, Bridget, have any life insurance policies currently, such as a term or whole life? And she's going to say yes, or she's going to say no. By the way, that's one of the 7 opportunities, because if she says yes, you could do a review. If she says no, right, a review, and Jim, if you got a better policy, she can 1035 exchange any cash value, and boom, you're off and running. You just sold an insurance policy. If she says no, fantastic, right? We now have another sales opportunity where we could talk about life insurance specifically at a separate appointment, okay? But then we're going to ask the golden question. Bridget, do you have anything that acts like life insurance? And then always give examples. Do you have a 401k, an IRA, or an annuity, something that's going to go probate free over to your loved ones when you die? Meaning, and this is where it gets powerful, meaning, are you self-insured? Are you self-insured? Now, she's going to say yes or no. The reason it's the golden question is either answer we can help her with, and I'm going to show you how. In this example, she says yes. I ask the golden question. She says yes. I say, just rough numbers, how much? She says about $225,000. So do you see how, remember I said I was uncomfortable asking about if they have a 401k, how it's performing, that Jim was uncomfortable hearing that question? That's not a question I should be asking. And I'm starting to get into an area, a gray area, where I might not be licensed to ask about specific securities products. I avoided all of that by just switching it to the golden question. So write that down. Do you have anything that acts like life insurance, such as a 401k, an IRA, or an annuity, something that's going to go probate free over to your loved ones when you die? Meaning, are you self-insured? And here's the crazy thing. Not only am I comfortable asking it, I'm repeating myself, not only is Bridget or Jim comfortable answering it, and not only am I being compliant, it actually tickles the, and I'm not a Freudian expert, but it tickles the ego or the superego in people. And what I mean is this. Have you ever noticed, maybe through yourself or someone you've witnessed, that if you had, let's say you're a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan, which I'm not, and you hear someone talking about the 1970s Pittsburgh Steelers or Chuck Noll or whatever it might be, you almost can't resist going over and joining this conversation, and you don't even know these people, right? If you just learn some crazy stat or history fact about the Civil War and you hear people talking about it and you have the answer, you can't help yourself. Do you know what I'm saying? I'll give you one more example. I have a friend, he's a good dude. He's not broke, but he's like close to broke, and he owns a duplex. He and his wife and 3 kids live in one side, and he rents out the other side. If we were holding a convention at the Seattle Convention Center talking about real estate investments, right, or how to become your own landlord, how to get rich off real estate, or whatever it is, none of those that I've attended. I'm not very good at real estate, but and they said, "Hey, how many people here are real estate investors, have investment properties?" Jim, he wouldn't even raise his hand. He kind of do the 2-hand raise, like he would emphatically raise his hand. He thinks he's Donald Trump. See, it's the ego. There's sex appeal to that. When you just have to trust me. I've been doing this for 23 years. When you shift the question that way, you're totally comfortable asking it. They're comfortable hearing it, and their ego is going to drive them to tell you yes if it's yes. All right. So we discover that Bridget has $225,000. Now, what we want to do is at the appropriate time, meaning we don't stop a Medicare supplement sales pitch and shift gears to an annuity. And in fact, Jim, you could correct me if you're wrong or refine this, but with certain things like Medicare Advantage, you're not allowed to sell other products or a tidal wave sale, right?
Yeah,
You
that's
have to,
correct. Depending
yeah,
on if it's on scope or something like that, Sean. But yeah, typically these are get a little information and set a future appointment to talk about it
yep, that's
for
exactly right.
Medicare Advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's how you're going to segue that. So at the end, at the conclusion of everything you've done, you could say this, or Jim, maybe it's at the end of annual enrollment. You know what I'm saying? Like have some smarts, have some flexibility here. But I'm going to come back to Bridget and I'm going to say, Bridget, I don't have time now. I got to move on to the next appointment. I got to get this going for you. Let's say it's a Med Advantage plan. But when I asked you, when I went through your confidential needs analysis, I asked you if you were self-insured. And you said yes. You said you had a $225,000 IRA, and always compliment people, right? They deserve it. So, good for you, Bridget. A lot of people I sit down with have not done such a good job of protecting their family. So if you're self-insured with $225,000, can I ask you one more question before I leave today or before we hang up the Zoom call or whatever it is? Is that money protected? Is your retirement protected? And she's going to say, I don't know. Now, this is not this is an ambiguous question, but it's not misleading, right? It's intentionally a little bit ambiguous because we're going to say, hey, is this retirement protected? She's going to say no. And what you're going to do is you're going to say, well, Bridget, we're one of the nation's leading providers of retirement protection plans. And remember those 3 things I said about FIAs? You're going to list them. Hey, you're going to eliminate market loss. You'll never lose money in the market again. You're going to sleep well at night. Any money that you put in here is going to participate in market gains. I'm not going to be gratuitous. That's why I told you to write this down. So you have the highest gain potential of any other guaranteed product. And then finally, it's an annuity. So it can still create guaranteed lifetime income for you, your spouse, your children, however you want. So Bridget, if any of these 3 things are of value to you or all of them, let's set up an appointment next week. Now, Jim, that's a point where even if someone went through this, they would probably see this as a roadblock because there's something like 400 carriers who each have 50 different products, and you don't know what your login is. You don't know who you're contracted with. You don't know how to run the illustrations, which product you pick. That's where a stop sign goes up. But that's the beauty of the Life and Annuity Resource Center, the LARC, the Life and Annuity Resource Center. Jim will show you where that is, maybe on a follow-up email or something. I want to make sure we hit the right time here. And you're going to click on the Ask a Specialist. It's this simple. And then a form's going to come up. This is end-to-end encrypted. And you're going to put in all the information that you have. You're going to submit it. And now Jim's team, backed up by Brokers International, if there's ever anything they need us to help them discover or look at, is going to find the best choices for your client. And you're going to be compliant with the best interest laws. It's all going to be documented, encrypted, and secured in the cloud. So if you ever need to go back and reference it, it's there. Now we're going to come back and we're going to present a solution. I'm not going to go through this solution for the sake of time. This is a Fidelity and Guarantee F&G Performance Pro, but it has a 15% bonus and a 6.5% cap in the S&P. So you'll be able to tell Bridget, you put your $225,000 in here, it's worth $259,000 day one. Wow, look at that. And then every year that the S&P goes up, you'll gain all the gains up to 6.5. And any years that the S&P goes down, you'll lose nothing. Those gains are locked in. And then at age 70, she can start taking income. So by the time she's 100, right, she said she was worried about living too long, she would have made $500,000 and still have over $100,000 that she could use for vacations, for funding college funds for her grandchildren, healthcare, whatever it might be. Very powerful. Do you think you can sell that? Well, if you sell that, one thing I know about Western is they pay very generous comp. That compensation based on age, state, and it can fluctuate, it's around $12,000. See, that's the impact I want to give you. You think we can double your income by following the system? $12,000. Try doing that once a month and ask me or ask yourself, did I just double my income? Absolutely. Let's look at one more scenario. We're going to wrap it up. This is Tom. Tom is 65. Now, Tom has type 2 diabetes. He's modestly overweight. His wife is, this is like my scenario, right? His wife's younger. She's extremely healthy. And when we ask Tom the golden question, he doesn't have any money. Be very empathetic. Tom didn't set out at 35 to be broke when he was 65. So have empathy. But one of the things that we find out in that confidential needs analysis is also what their Social Security benefits are. And if Tom is making $2,000 a month and his wife is making $600, what happens when Tom dies? She gets to keep the higher of the two, but she loses the lower. And $600 a month plus CPI adjustments is a significant amount of money to lose. It's the reason why, according to the Boston Institute of Retirement Research, 1 of 6 women falls below the poverty line when their husband dies. Now, I say that because women live longer. That's a statistic, right? I'm not being sexist. I'm saying that's the facts. So Tom's concerned about his wife losing the spousal income. He's concerned about the long-term care and healthcare costs. He's concerned about covering end-of-life care costs, just the funeral alone. And he would love to pass on money to his loved ones. When I asked Tom the golden question, do you have anything that acts like life insurance? He says no. Does that mean that we're dead in the water? No, I called the golden question for a reason, because whether they say yes or whether they say no, I can help them. Now, the difference is this. My follow-up question, so once I conclude the business that I'm there to conduct, I asked Tom this question. Tom, when I asked you if you were self-insured, you said no, and I totally understand it. Pensions have dried up. It's hard to get ahead of life. Surprises and expenses come up out of nowhere. Have you considered an IUL to supplement your retirement? And then I say, and Tom says, well, what's an IUL, right? It's ambiguous, but it's not misleading. And if you've done a good job of being professional, building rapport, but not becoming their best friend, it's very critical, leading, guiding, directing, they're going to say, what do you mean? I say, well, we use something called an IUL. It's not an investment, it's a financial asset, and a conservative one at that. But it does 3 things better than any other financial product, Tom. It offers you guarantees, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to explain that. It offers you tax-free cash, and the death benefit is tax-free. This is critical for protecting your loved ones. And it can offer benefits, long-term care benefits or healthcare benefits to offset that cost so you don't destroy your financial future for your wife and your kids when you pass. And if you're interested, Tom, we can meet next week, same time, same bat channel, as they say, right? What do? Go to the Ask a Specialist. It's all documented. It's all encrypted. It's kept in the cloud. This time I click on the Life tab. I fill out the information as best I can. They're going to come back with a solution. In this instance, this is the Mutual of Omaha IUL Express, right, Jim? Great product, great company, A+ rated. And I would be able to tell Tom, hey, thanks for meeting me again this week. I did some research. Here's what I'm going to offer. Here's what I'm going to recommend. Mutual of Omaha, company you've heard of? Yes, great company, A+ rated. For about $8 a day, you're going to have $100,000 death benefit day one. It has the potential to build cash value that you can borrow tax-free. There's no exam, no fluids, no poking, pricking, prodding, peeing, right? No attending physician statement. And it comes with something called critical and terminal illness living benefit riders. So you can actually access that money ahead of time if you need long-term care or healthcare costs, right? So if you need that, we can access that $100,000. It's like we just set up that money for you and you just have to start paying into it. It's like the reverse of what you would normally think. And any money that you don't spend, pass this to your wife, pass this to your kids tax-free, okay? But more importantly, Tom, let's say you don't need long-term care and you die and the $100,000 all passes to your beautiful wife. You just replaced 16 years of her income, 16 years of her lost income. Jim, I argue that these are easier to sell than the annuities because Tom is destitute. He is upset that at 65, he can't take care of his family. Do you think he's going to find a way to make $8 a day, go to work and now fix it at age 65? And you can see I get pumped up about this stuff because I've been in the field and I see people look at it and say, is this real? It absolutely is, right? And the work you had to do was just ask questions and then present, okay? So here's the steps if you want to double your income. Number one, download that confidential needs analysis. Jim is going to show you or put in the comments where the LARC exists on the Western Marketing website. Second, ask the golden question every time. Don't let anyone rush you. Don't let anyone intimidate you. Go through your steps. You are in control. You are in charge, right? Jim, you wouldn't go into a doctor's office and tell them to skip this question, hurry up, what's the price, right? Because they're the professional. Right. You act like the professional when you're in the home and then submit all the scenarios to the LARC. If you do that, you're going to write at least one annuity per quarter, right? And that's that $12,000. And that was just an average, right? They can fluctuate based on age, product state, but that's a big product. That's a big commission for you and you deserved it. And one IUL or whole life policy per month. And the scenario I gave you there based on average commissions, that's $2,000. So Jim, you can see how by doing this, without getting a different license, without having to buy leads, sitting down with the same people, and I encourage you, find a call campaign where you're calling your old clients and asking them the golden question. Hey, do you have any life insurance currently? Do you have any long-term care coverage, right? There's many Trojan horses is what I call them that can get you in there and then help you help them and make money off of it. That's how you're going to double your income. So Jim, I left very little time for questions, so we might have to just do that later through email. So we're on time for this next meeting there. But I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and pass it on to you.
Sure, Sean. First of all, thank you. If y'all do have questions, we do have 2 or 3 minutes max to answer questions. But if you have more that we don't get to, do not fret. We will follow up with you after the webinar and answer your questions. So if you have them, go ahead and type them into the question box. I want to talk about a few things really quick as we get towards the end. And first of all, everybody, again, thank you for joining us. Sean, thank you as always for your presentation. This webinar is being recorded. It will be sent to you along with how to access the Life and Annuity Resource Center, where the confidential needs analysis and the Ask a Specialist, amongst a bunch of other assets that you can use to learn are. So don't fret, that will be sent to you here after the webinar. This is a 3-piece series. So even if you can't attend one or both of the next 2, which are at the same bat time and same bat channel the next 2 weeks, Thursday, the 17th and the 24th, please register because those will be recorded as well. So even if you can't make it, register and we'll send those in a follow-up email. Third of all, really quick, these are real life scenarios, and I'm going to kind of give you an example. In 2023 in September, on one of our agent conferences, a gentleman named Ben, who actually we've used as a, this is real life, this can happen, you can add a lot of income. Ben walked up to me. His background was in construction, and he had left construction to work with his daughter in a Medicare agency in Ohio, not in a big city where there's millionaires on every corner. Ben followed our advice. Sean's program, uses the LARC, works with us at Western Marketing. Last year, Ben did $1.4 million of annuity business. Now Ben wants to get a securities license. He wants to be the annuity specialist in his small town in Iowa. So it can happen. And third and last on this is we will be launching, Sean briefly touched about it, a webinar next month on a turnkey program that you can use to market long-term care, hybrid long-term care, so asset-based, either life insurance or annuities, but it's turnkey with client-facing material included, as well as marketing pieces. So just keep an eye out for that. Other than that, again, thank you all very much for your time. Sean, thank you as well. If you have questions, if you want to talk through this and not just send an email or submit something online, our line here at the office is 1-800-852-7152. Again, 800-852-7152. My name is Jim Codney. I'm the National Sales Director, but you can ask if you work with somebody on life or annuities, just ask for your marketer and they'll be happy to help you. So with that, again, thank you all for your time. Sean, thank you for being such a great friend and partner. Make it a great day, everyone. Take care.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Take care.